In order to curb the rapid growth of Chinese electric vehicles in the European market, the EU took a major step on September 12, 2023, imposing temporary countervailing duties on Chinese electric vehicles. This policy was passed after more than half a year of intense negotiations and will officially take effect on July 4th. This is undoubtedly a major blow to Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers. At the same time, there are reports that the EU is seeking cooperation with China, hoping that China can share its electric vehicle technology unconditionally. This move is intended to help European companies improve their electric vehicle manufacturing capabilities in order to narrow the technological gap with China in this field. So why did the EU suddenly impose temporary countervailing duties? Is China willing to share its electric vehicle technology with the EU? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. In recent years, electric vehicles have gradually become popular around the world, and countries are actively promoting the development of this industry. In this regard, the United States and China are undoubtedly the leaders. Especially in China, due to the lower manufacturing and labor costs, the price of electric vehicles made in China is more competitive than that of other countries, which makes their products more easily accepted by the global market. However, as the number of Chinese electric vehicles exported increases, their influence in the global market is also increasing. Now the European market has also become an important development goal for them. According to data from 2022, China has exported more than 300,000 electric vehicles to Europe, accounting for 12% of the market share. By 2023, this number has grown to 640,000, accounting for 40% of the entire market. Even more remarkable is that the revenue brought by these exported electric vehicles is as high as $20.4 billion, accounting for more than half of China's total revenue in the European market. Faced with the rapid expansion of Chinese electric vehicles, the European Union has also begun to feel the pressure. If China's electric vehicle technology and performance are increasingly recognized by the market in the future, this will pose a huge impact on Europe's traditional fuel vehicle industry. In order to protect local manufacturers, the European Commission announced in September 2023 that it would launch an anti-subsidy investigation on Chinese electric vehicles. So do you know what an anti-subsidy investigation is? In fact, anti-subsidy investigations are a common means in international trade. They are usually formal investigations initiated by a country or region to examine the subsidies provided by another country or region to its exporting enterprises. The purpose of such investigations is mainly to determine whether these subsidies have caused damage to the relevant industries of the importing country, posed a threat, or hindered the establishment and development of domestic industries. Now the EU believes that due to the huge subsidies of the Chinese government, the price of Chinese electric vehicles is abnormally low, which to some extent distorts the normal competition in the European market. In this case, the EU needs to safeguard the interests of European automakers by launching an anti-subsidy investigation. However, the anti-subsidy investigation initiated by the EU is mainly due to concerns about the rapid expansion of Chinese electric vehicles in the global market, especially in the European market. Of course, the EU's anti-subsidy investigation may also involve political and strategic aspects. Because on May 8 this year, U.S. Secretary of Commerce Raimondo claimed that extreme measures may be taken in the future to ban Chinese connected cars from entering the United States. Therefore, the anti-subsidy investigation initiated by the EU may also be a further cooperation with the United States to sanction Chinese electric vehicles. But it is worth mentioning that at the same time, the EU has provided a large amount of subsidies to the electric vehicle and battery industries of other countries. So from this perspective, the EU criticizes China's subsidy policy on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is also implementing similar policies. Obviously, this is a double standard behavior. However, since Europe launched the anti-subsidy investigation, some European policymakers have been caught in a dilemma. They are unwilling to deteriorate relations with the powerful Chinese economy, which has led to obvious differences in the positions of European countries on this issue, among which France and Germany are one of them. As a major automobile producer, France is very sensitive to competition in the electric vehicle industry. They prefer to protect their own industry through anti-subsidy investigations to ensure that French automakers maintain a certain advantage in the European market. At the same time, Germany, as Europe's largest automobile market and manufacturing powerhouse, is afraid that trade conflicts with China may have disastrous economic consequences, so they prefer to deal with these trade disputes through cooperation and dialogue, hoping that this will stabilize the economic relations between the two sides. And for German automakers, it may not make sense to intensify competition in the field of mass-produced cars, because China is already ahead in economies of scale and consumer acceptance may be too high. But after 6 months of negotiations, the EU has finally decided to impose a temporary anti-subsidy tax of up to 35% on electric vehicles imported from China, and this decision will officially take effect on July 4th. So, what impact will this have on China? In fact, the EU's anti-subsidy tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles just show that they are relatively backward in this industry and can only try to limit China's expansion in Europe through tax measures to buy time to develop local industries to compete with Chinese products. However, this tax increase can only increase the export cost of Chinese electric vehicles, which may make them uncompetitive in price. If Chinese automakers want to maintain their market share in Europe, they may need to accept lower profits, which will undoubtedly affect their overall profits. But this impact may only be short-term for China's electric vehicle industry. Many of the Chinese electric vehicles currently sold in the European market are local brands acquired in Europe or models with European brand backgrounds, such as SAIC's MG, Dongfeng's EasyGo, Geely's Lynk & Co., and Smart. Among these brands, except for SAIC's MG and Smart, the rest of the models are mainly produced in Europe. Therefore, although the sales of these models are classified as Chinese brands, their market performance will not be greatly affected. So in the next 3 years, this policy may have a significant impact on the plans of Chinese automakers to further expand their market share in Europe, but it will not last long. But now, the EU is considering a new strategy, hoping that China can unconditionally share technologies related to the electric industry, so as to avoid the need to pay high tariffs. What is going on? Europe and the United States have faced the challenge of environmental pollution since a long time ago, so they became one of the first countries to transform to electric vehicles and promised to reduce tailpipe emissions by promoting electric vehicles. However, despite being the pioneers of this change, the pace of transformation in these countries has slowed down in recent years. For example, the UK recently postponed the ban on fuel car sales by 5 years to 2035, while Germany stopped subsidies for purchasing electric vehicles. As of 2023, European electric vehicle sales reached 2 million, a year-on-year increase of 28%, but at the same time, China's electric vehicle sales reached 8.87 million, accounting for 63% of the global total. Such a huge gap shows that Europe is relatively backward in this field. In fact, the development of the European electric vehicle industry is relatively slow, and one of the key factors is the regional imbalance in the construction of public charging piles. Although the Netherlands, Germany, and France rank in the top 3 in terms of the number of charging piles, reaching 110,000, 80,000, and 70,000 respectively, some countries in Central and Eastern Europe and Southern Europe have fewer charging piles, but more DC charging stations and supercharging stations. This uneven distribution has caused electric car owners in some regions to have to queue for hours to charge, which has seriously affected consumers' acceptance of electric vehicles. In order to promote the transformation of the automotive industry to electrification, the European Union set a goal of adding 14,000 charging piles per week in February 2023. But in fact, only about 2,000 new charging piles are installed each week, far below expectations. This shortage of charging facilities has deterred many potential electric vehicle buyers. Faced with these challenges, EU countries have begun to consider how to improve local electric vehicle technology and infrastructure. Among them, they have seen China's rapid development in electric vehicles and charging technology, and have begun to seek opportunities to cooperate with China, hoping to improve their competitiveness through technology sharing or cooperation. This strategy is intended to accelerate the maturity of the European electric vehicle industry and maintain competitiveness in the global market. But for such an extreme move by the EU, it is difficult for China to provide them with certain technical support and help. Instead, China has now begun to fight back against the EU's anti-subsidy investigation. As we all know, China has the largest population in the world, and pork is a regular on the tables of most Chinese families, supporting a huge market. The EU has long been one of China's most important pork trading partners. Take 2023 as an example. China imported 1.55 million tons of pork and 1.16 million tons of pork byproducts, with a total value of billions of dollars. Among them, pork and byproducts imported from the EU alone reached 610,000 tons and 640,000 tons, with a trade volume of at least more than $5 billion. Spain, France, the Netherlands, Denmark, and other major pork exporting countries export more than $1 billion worth of pork and byproducts to China on average every year. Now, China has decided to initiate an anti-dumping investigation on imported pork and related byproducts originating from the EU, which has also made the pork industry in European countries uneasy. Many European pork industry insiders describe this policy change as a terrible nightmare for the industry because it would make them lose the Chinese market. So do you think China's approach is correct? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content